Hey everyone, welcome back for session 2 of Compassion Camp. Remember that Compassion Camp is sort of like an online version of Vacation Bible School, where we are learning about having compassion for ourselves, for others, and for our world. I hope that you have some folks who are joining you today, but if you don't, that's all right too. Remember, if you would like to get copies of the activities that go along with our session for this week emailed to you, please just let me know. My email address is on the screen. Being compassionate is not always easy. Sometimes we have to take risks in order to ease someone's hurt or suffering. We can be brave to jump in, share and protect, and speak up for others. Help me finish these sentences about how people can be brave. Can you think of several ways that each person can be brave? Mia has extra food in her pantry. She can be brave and give it away. Taylor is a lifeguard. When someone is struggling in the water, Taylor can be brave and jump in and help them. Jaden sees a friend picking on a younger child. Jaden can be brave and tell somebody about it. Sam notices the teacher never calls Kai by the name they prefer. Sam can be brave and maybe tell the teacher, or maybe say that's not what Kai prefers. Mrs. Perez notices her students are restless and need a break. Mrs. Perez can be brave and maybe take them to get some water. Dr. Nguyen hears some people need medical care but cannot afford it. He can be brave and, maybe donate his services. Today's song that we're going to sing is all about being brave. It doesn't mean you won't feel scared too. It's okay to feel scared. But God gives us compassion, so we will feel brave enough to make choices that ease the hurt of others. We can always ask a grown-up to help. We can be a team to show compassion. Let's sing our song, Brave Enough, together.
We are brave enough to love. We are brave enough to show compassion. We are brave enough to listen and tell the truth. We are brave enough to love. We are brave enough to show compassion. We are brave enough to listen and tell the truth.
Great job singing, friends! Sometimes our compassion helps us make brave choices. And when we do, look out! God's power can restore our communities, our friendships, and ourselves. Later, we will hear a story from the Bible about some heavy lifting, a really big hole, and some neighbors who took a risk to help a friend. We will see how one act of bravery changed a community. As we prepare to learn more about brave compassion, let's begin with our compassion prayer. Place one hand on your head and one hand on your heart. Remember that we do this because compassion happens in our brains, but we often feel it in our hearts. Repeat after me. Dear Jesus, your compassion always looked like courage. Strengthen our hearts with your bravery as we risk, reach out, and lift up our siblings near and far. Help us keep our eyes on you. Amen. You're going to have some fun now with our Bible story for today, and then the video will ask you to pause and do some of the activities that I mentioned earlier. I will come back again after you're done, and I'll see you for our closing session this week as we wrap up week 2 of Compassion Camp, which is all about having compassion to our neighbors. You have fun, and I'll see you soon. Bye.
One day Jesus visited someone's home. Everyone heard he was there. They were so excited to see him because they'd heard he'd healed and helped people be a part of their communities again. A friend who was paralyzed had his friends take him to see Jesus.
When the group got there, it was so crowded. There was no way to get to Jesus through all the people. They had an idea. They climbed up onto the roof of the house and made a hole in the roof above where Jesus was. Then they lowered their friend into the room. When Jesus saw their faith, he was encouraged. He told their friend, "I see you and love you. You are made whole for your community. Your sins are forgiven."
Some temple leaders called scribes were watching Jesus. When they heard him say this to the friend who was paralyzed, they were angry. They thought to themselves, "Who does this Jesus think he is? Only God can say these things." Jesus could tell the scribes disagreed with him, so he said to them, "I know what you're thinking right now, but what's easier, to say, 'I see you and love you,' or 'Get up and walk'? I'll show you that it's possible to do both."
With compassion, Jesus turned to the friend who was paralyzed and said, "Get up, pick up your mat, and go home. You're healed now." He stood up amazed. He picked up his mat and went home with his friends. Everyone was so happy they praised God because they had never seen anything like this before.
We might think we only need to be brave for big, scary things. We might think brave is only for superheroes. But whether it's for a friend or a stranger, a family member or a neighbor, or even for ourselves, compassion helps us to be brave.
Sometimes being brave means being like the friends by showing up for someone, helping carry their burdens, helping them get to where they need to be, and standing with them. Sometimes being brave means being like the friend who was paralyzed by sharing your own story and asking for what you need. And sometimes being brave means being like Jesus by fully seeing and accepting a person.
Welcome back, everyone. Wow, I sure hope you were brave enough to do some of those activities. Think for a minute about which one was your favorite. I think for me, it's the Compassion in Action activity where we could write a letter to someone in the community. It's really hard in our world right now with the coronavirus pandemic because some people are afraid of giving the virus to others and some people are afraid to get it. That means we might not be doing things like we normally would, or even being around people like we normally would either. Letter writing or sending cards are great ways of showing compassion to people we know and even people we don't know who might need a note to cheer them up. Last time, we learned how compassion begins with seeing and welcoming. This week, we learned compassion helps us be brave. Being brave sometimes means we don't know what will happen when we show up. The friend who was paralyzed in our Bible story didn't know if his friends would help him. He didn't know if he would get to see Jesus. The friends didn't know what would happen when they got to the house to see Jesus. Maybe they wouldn't get into the house. Maybe the religious leaders or even Jesus would see them and turn them away. Maybe the friend who was paralyzed wouldn't receive the healing miracle. Let's think for a minute. How were the friends brave? I think they found a way to Jesus. They found a way for all of the crowds to get up and to get their friend the help that he needed. How was the friend who was paralyzed brave? I think he was pretty brave because he even risked going to Jesus himself. He had a disability, being a person who couldn't walk, being paralyzed, meaning you can't get up. That made you, at least in some people's eyes, unclean, unfit to be around other people. And so he took a risk. He was brave in even saying, maybe Jesus will heal me. Compassion helped each of them be brave. The friend who was paralyzed had courage that helped him trust his friends and ask Jesus for help. And the friends' courage made them determined to do all they could to help him. Jesus' courage showed the friend who was paralyzed he was loved and accepted. We can be brave because we are filled with God's love, and God always promises to be with us. Let's sing our song, Brave Enough, again together.
We are brave enough to love. We are brave enough to show compassion. We are brave enough to listen and tell the truth. We are brave enough to love. We are brave enough to show compassion. We are brave enough to listen and tell the truth. We can be brave. We can be brave because we're filled with love from the bottom of God's heart. We can be brave. We can be brave. We are brave enough to love. We are brave enough to show compassion. We are brave enough to listen and tell the truth. We are brave enough to love. We are brave enough to show compassion. We are brave enough to listen and tell the truth. We can be brave. We can be brave
When we see people who are sad, happy, lonely, scared, or hurt, we can feel it with them. That's our empathy. That's the first step. To act on our empathy, we follow Jesus' example of compassion. Sometimes it is helping someone do something hard. Sometimes it is being honest about who we are and what we need. Sometimes it is showing love and acceptance for the person right in front of us. These things can be hard. And it's okay. We can trust God to give us the courage to be brave with our compassion. Let's close in the same way that we opened today. Place one hand on your head and one hand on your heart. We're doing this because compassion happens in our brains, but we often feel it in our hearts. Repeat after me. Dear Jesus, your compassion always looked like courage. Strengthen our hearts with your bravery as we risk, reach out, and lift up our siblings near and far. Help us keep our eyes on you. Amen. And that's it for session 2. Don't forget that there is a coloring page of the prayer that I hope you might color and put up somewhere in your house to remind you of this week's session. There's also the daily examen that you can do with your family as well. Thank you for being brave enough to give this a try. I can't wait to see you next week. Bye.